This is Carla Hinton reporting for the Oklahoman and NewsOK.com. I'm here in the studio with three metro area religious leaders: Rabbi Vered Harris, spiritual leader of Temple B'nai Israel; Reverend Don Heath, he is pastor of Edmond Trinity Christian Church, Disciples of Christ; and the Reverend Lori Walkie, she's associate pastor of Mayflower Congregational Church, UCC. I asked you guys to come in today to talk about several activities that are planned or happening Friday, February 26th, and over the weekend. Your houses of worship are part of a unique campaign that is currently underway. It's called 43 Against Hate. Now, as I understand it, the campaign is being held specifically as the Muslim faith community has its Muslim Day at the Capitol on Friday. Now, that event is designed to draw Oklahoma Muslims to the state capitol for a day of workshops and sessions about civic engagement. So, Rabbi Harris, tell me a little bit about 43 Against Hate. How did that come about?
Well, it came about actually last December. There was a small group of interfaith leaders from across Oklahoma City that got together because we were upset about the anti-Muslim rhetoric that we've been hearing both around our city, around Oklahoma, but also around the nation. So we got together just to brainstorm and to talk about what are some of the things that we might be able to do. The Interfaith Alliance, the Oklahoma Conference of Churches, Council on American Islamic Relations, myself, Rabbi Emeritus David Pakman from the Temple, Rabbi Abby Jacobson. And Rabbi Pakman said, you know, maybe we just need to make a statement to the community that there are faith leaders and congregations throughout Oklahoma City that are saying no to this rhetoric, no to the hate, and we want to support our Muslim neighbors. Okay. Everybody received it very well, and we actually called it 25 Against Hate. Okay. And we thought if we can get 25 congregations to say that on this weekend we are going to address respect and tolerance for all peace-seeking people in their religions, will really make a statement. So as you can imagine, when it came out to 43, we were very pleased, and we know that there are more congregations out there that agree with us that just don't know about the campaign or didn't have time to sign on.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Now, Reverend Heath, why did your church decide to get involved? Why were you so passionate about this? I've heard from Rabbi Harris that you were very passionate about this effort.
Well, it fits naturally with our theology. We're a disciple of Christ congregation, and one of our key beliefs is unity, originally of all Christians, and now it's really the unity of people of all faiths. That the belief that all people are children of God, and that we're actually related to each and every person and each and every part of the planet. We kind of all come from the same stardust, so to speak, and that God created each and every one of us. So. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to diminish your family. That's why it particularly strikes me, and so I contacted all the disciple congregations in the Oklahoma City area, hoping to that they would participate as well. And 7 of them, including ours, wound up participating.
Okay, 7's a good number. That's a good number.
Holy number.
Right. That's right. Well, tell me, either of you or the three of you, what will these houses of worship be doing? Will they be doing something? From what I understand, some will be preaching, maybe giving sermons on tolerance and things like that.
The actual content of what will happen during the worship service is up to each house of worship. Okay. So I would be interested to hear what everyone else is doing. We will be peppering our service with comments that encourage respect and tolerance for all peace-seeking people, also raising awareness about, as Reverend Heath said, the connection between all people and our respect in particular and concern in particular for Muslims. Okay. We've also chosen music that is Jewish music that comes out of Muslim influences. So for instance, we have a Baghdadi tune for one of our particular liturgical pieces, and that will be almost a more subtle way of bringing the spirit of the communities together.
Okay, interesting. Reverend Walkie, would you like to comment on that aspect? Do you know what Mayflower is going to be doing?
Sure, Carla. Our sermon will be focused on on the topic, and the rest of our liturgy will speak to it as well, particularly our prayer of confession, confessing the ways that perhaps we are not overtly hateful, but we have remained silent. And this is one of the ways the 43 Against Hate is a campaign in which we can be very public. That we are opposed to this rhetoric that is inflammatory and it's just not truthful about our Muslim neighbors. Okay. And this is how we can be very vocal and very clear where we stand.
Okay, good. And
I'd actually like to add to that, one of the things that touched me about some of the congregations that signed on was finding out that some of even our Christian churches in our community are subject to hateful speech, even hate mail, about their views differing from a different branch of Christianity or a different person's belief. So while this really came out of the anti-Muslim rhetoric that we've heard, I've been very touched by the way that congregations are taking it to be inclusive of all inflammatory language against religions, against people of different backgrounds, against all sorts of demographics.
Okay, interesting. And I want to say, you all have talked about making a public statement. 43 Against Hate did have a very large ad in the Oklahoman yesterday, Wednesday. So that was part of your making a statement, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, good.
That's right, and we want to, part of that was inviting people who may be looking for a place to worship. So our congregations are very likely to, they're used to the language of peace and nonviolence, but perhaps there are folks out there looking for a place to worship and to experience love and inclusion. And this is a way for us to say, here are those houses of worship, and here are the times you can show up and be welcome.
Oh, good. Okay, because it did include the times. Okay, the worship times. Good. Well, now that I have you have the floor, Reverend Walke. Can you talk a little bit about the Interfaith Alliance's efforts on Friday, or the plans on Friday for Muslim Day at the Capitol? I know that you're a board member, and so you know a little bit about what the organization has been planning.
Sure. On Friday, the Interfaith Alliance has asked members of the interfaith community to show up at the Capitol to support our Muslim neighbors as they come and go from the Capitol to attend events for Muslim Day at the Capitol, as they learn how to speak to their legislators, to advocate for themselves, and they are going to advocate for the wider community, because that is what they do too. Okay. And we are going to be present as a peaceful presence. Okay. We know that there are some protesters, there were last year, and we anticipate protesters this year, who are there to discourage the presence of Muslims at the Capitol. And we are there not really focused on the protesters, but as a very clear display of love and support for these neighbors trying to engage in our government and participate as civilians.
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you all would like to add to the conversation that we've had today?
Well, at our church, the message will be as much 43 against fear as hate. I think, especially from a Christian perspective, that's what drives some of the hostility, is just fear. Okay. Fear of modernity, fear that their way of life is being threatened, and you know, it's a problem that runs across. I've been doing a lot of criminal justice work. I see exactly the same thing in historic relations between white Christians and African Americans. You know, it's just a problem that runs throughout our society that we come across all the time. But the focus this week will be on Muslims.
Okay, interesting. Well, thank you guys so much for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
This is Carla Hinton reporting for the Oklahoman and NewsOK.com. Read more about this event in the Oklahoman.